the family, they just have a lot of family drama. I don't know. It's like a cursed family or something. I hate to say that, but like, it's just a lot of stuff happens in that family.
She helped for the screening. She made him and his whole family go down to the basement.
Go down to the basement during the premiere of his movie.
Blake Lively, the name itself conjured images of effortless glamour, radiant success, and an untouchable A-list aura. For years, she meticulously cultivated the persona of Hollywood's ultimate golden girl, a celebrated actress, a style icon whose fashion choices were dissected and emulated worldwide, a charming and witty presence on every talk show couch, and seemingly the linchpin of a fairy tale marriage with Ryan Reynolds. She appeared to possess the coveted trifecta of fame, fortune, and family bliss. Endorsement deals with luxury brands flowed in, magazine covers clamored for her visage, and high-profile friendships solidified her position at the apex of the entertainment world. Her public persona was a carefully constructed masterpiece, radiating warmth, relatability, and an almost aspirational wholesomeness. But behind this dazzling veneer, insidious cracks were beginning to appear. Whispers, initially faint, hinted at a starkly different reality, a ruthless ambition, a hidden undercurrent of toxicity, and a capacity for calculated maneuvering that belied the sunny exterior. Now, the carefully erected facade is not just cracking, it's fracturing into a million pieces in a scandal of spectacular proportions, exposing a vicious family conflict and a desperate, almost frantic campaign to regain control of a narrative rapidly spiraling out of her grasp. Blake Lively, the star who many believed had mastered the art of image management, is facing a reckoning that threatens to dismantle her carefully crafted kingdom. But the question that now hangs heavy in the air, prompting intense scrutiny and fervent online debate, is this: was the shimmering illusion of perfection ever truly anything more than smoke and mirrors?
That's what you're doing right now. You were nervous. You texted me last night. You came here. You knew it wasn't going to be easy. We're going to talk about stuff. And you showed up anyways. And you listened.
Because Blake Lively had alienated the entire cast against him. She had convinced everyone that he was this monster, this terrible person.
The initial tremors that signaled the impending earthquake in Blake Lively's seemingly flawless world weren't born from a scandalous romance or a public misstep, but from the ostensibly mundane arena of a film set. The project in question, envisioned as a promising collaboration, was meant to be a harmonious convergence of creative talents with actor and filmmaker Justin Baldoni. However, behind the bright lights and carefully orchestrated publicity stills, a far less idyllic scenario was playing out. Grumblings began to circulate amongst industry insiders, carried on hushed tones and whispered in exclusive circles. Accounts of creative friction, sharp disagreements over the very fabric of the script, and a palpable power struggle steadily escalating between the two leads. It was murmured that Lively, wielding her considerable star power, was relentlessly advocating for script alterations, determined to mold the narrative to align with her specific artistic vision, while Baldoni, in his role as director, was steadfastly attempting to safeguard his original directorial concept and maintain creative autonomy. This brewing tension, initially contained within the confines of closed sets and discreet industry gatherings, inevitably began to seep into the broader public consciousness. Blind items and gossip columns hinted at Lively's allegedly demanding disposition, her perceived inclination to exert excessive control over every facet of the production, while Baldoni was subtly depicted as quietly exasperated, his artistic integrity and directorial authority being systematically eroded by relentless micromanagement. At first glance, it appeared to be a classic case of clashing Hollywood egos, a predictable instance of industry friction that often fades into background noise, merely typical backstage drama, or so the surface narrative suggested. The simmering undercurrent of discontent, initially dismissed as routine industry skirmishes, abruptly erupted into a full-blown conflagration when legal documents carrying the weight of official pronouncements and formalized accusations were thrust into the unforgiving glare of public scrutiny. Suddenly, the benign narrative of creative variances was violently supplanted by something demonstrably more serious, more damaging, and far more sensational. Blake Lively, employing the formal channels of the legal system, launched a series of allegations accusing Justin Baldoni of inappropriate behavior on set. The precise nature of these accusations remained initially veiled in legal jargon, fueling rampant speculation and intensifying the atmosphere of intrigue. Baldoni's legal team, swiftly mobilizing to counter the escalating assault on his reputation, retaliated with their own set of explosive claims, accusing Lively of deploying unscrupulous tactics, a phrase dripping with implication, in a calculated maneuver to effectively excise him from his own project, seizing control and reshaping it entirely to her own ends. The voracious media apparatus, perpetually ravenous for celebrity conflict and salacious revelations, descended upon the unfolding drama with unrestrained fervor. Tabloid headlines screamed in bold type, promising scandalous details and painting vivid pictures of power plays, of a celebrated star attempting to ruthlessly sideline a director, of a creative endeavor being torn asunder by unchecked ambition and inflated egos. Casual observers, initially encountering the story through sensationalized media snippets, might have been inclined to dismiss it as yet another instance of messy Hollywood interpersonal dynamics. A predictable cycle of accusation and counter-accusation, a he-said-she-said stalemate destined to be resolved behind closed doors and legal settlements. However, beneath the superficial layers of celebrity squabble and industry infighting, a far more potent and unpredictable force was gathering momentum. A gathering storm fueled by the potent currents of familial loyalty and the unwavering protective instincts of a father poised to defend his son's honor and career.
But we never talked about it. I was suffering. We never talked about anything. You're my dad, and I was having resentment for all the stuff we don't talk about.
But they're just highlighting, this is a mean girl. This isn't a good person.
And then, from beyond the familiar landscape of Hollywood power brokers and celebrity strategists, a figure emerged, seemingly from relative obscurity, to irrevocably alter the trajectory of the unfolding crisis. Sam Baldoni. Until this pivotal juncture, Justin's father remained largely unknown to the broader public, another Hollywood parent content to occupy the supportive shadows far removed from the dazzling glare of the spotlight. But as he witnessed the carefully constructed narrative taking hold, the public perception seemingly tilting precariously in Blake Lively's favor, and the potential damage to his son's reputation and professional future becoming increasingly palpable, something within Sam Baldoni reached a breaking point. Instead of resorting to conventional crisis management strategies, the carefully crafted press release, the strategically leaked statement to a sympathetic journalist, the dramatic press conference, Sam Baldoni opted for a decidedly unconventional and ultimately far more potent weapon in the modern media arsenal: social media. He launched what can only be accurately described as a meticulously calculated, laser-focused precision strike aimed directly at the linchpin of Blake Lively's carefully constructed credibility. His chosen medium was deceptively simple: a short, seemingly innocuous video posted online. The visual content was equally understated: a bulletin board, the kind found in any office or home, adorned with glowing affirmations of Justin's character. Words like compassionate, focused, respectful, and generous were prominently displayed, each adjective radiating warmth and positive connotation. On the surface, it appeared to be nothing more than a father's heartfelt, albeit slightly public, expression of paternal pride and unwavering support. But it was the caption accompanying this seemingly benign visual that detonated like a carefully placed explosive charge. In a world full of Blakes and Ryans, be a Justin. He deliberately avoided naming names directly, maintaining a veneer of plausible deniability. Yet the coded message, the unmistakable implication, resonated with deafening clarity. The post went viral with astonishing speed, instantly igniting a firestorm of online discourse, dominating social media algorithms, flooding digital feeds, and sparking fervent debates across every corner of the internet. For Blake Lively, accustomed to controlling every facet of her public image, this seemingly understated social media intervention was a direct, devastating hit, piercing the seemingly impenetrable armor of her carefully curated persona and exposing a vulnerability she had perhaps never anticipated.
At the end of the day, they're the ones who are seeking gag orders against Baldoni from releasing information, whereas his team is saying, nope, let's put out everything. Every single text message.
We're women, so we can just lie and cheat and steal our way in to control these big movies. I mean, how disturbing is this to you?
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds for years had meticulously and strategically cultivated an image of unparalleled Hollywood perfection. They were the golden couple, the epitome of A-list domesticity, their names synonymous with both professional triumph and enviable personal harmony. Their playful, often self-deprecating online banter on social media platforms had become legendary. endearing them to millions and solidifying their status as relatable, down-to-earth superstars. Their carefully choreographed red carpet appearances were masterclasses in effortless chic and synchronized charm. Their philanthropic endeavors, often highlighted in carefully placed media features, further cemented their reputation as benevolent and socially conscious figures. They were, in the eyes of many, the stable, loving, and seemingly unshakable duo in an industry notorious for its fleeting romances, public scandals, and spectacular meltdowns. But Sam Baldoni's indirect, yet undeniably pointed social media commentary acted as a corrosive agent, subtly dissolving the carefully applied gloss of this golden image. Suddenly, a seed of doubt was planted in the collective consciousness of the public. Fans, previously unwavering in their admiration, began to entertain questions that had previously been unthinkable. Was Blake Lively truly the blameless victim she portrayed herself to be in this burgeoning scandal? Or was there a more complex, less flattering narrative lurking beneath the surface of her carefully crafted pronouncements? Comment sections across social media platforms erupted in a cacophony of heated opinions, impassioned accusations, and staunch defenses, creating a digital battleground where loyalties were tested and previously held assumptions were challenged. What had begun as a seemingly contained workplace dispute between two co-workers was rapidly escalating into a full-blown industry-wide conflict, threatening to engulf not just Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, but also powerful studios, influential streaming platforms, and a constellation of prominent figures within the tightly interconnected Hollywood ecosystem. Sides were being chosen, whether publicly and vocally or in hushed whispers and strategic silences behind closed doors. Reputations, painstakingly built over years, were hanging precariously in the balance, and the once seemingly impenetrable, harmonious facade of Hollywood itself was starting to demonstrably crack under the mounting pressure of unvarnished truths and rapidly shifting public perception.
A spokesperson for Lively condemned the magazine, saying the Hollywood Reporter should be ashamed of itself and criticizing its article for downplaying documented examples of sexual harassment and retaliation as cultural misunderstanding.
We appeared to have all this money, or we appeared to be rich.
It's painful. It is painful.
So essentially, every single thing that she's claimed against him has been disproved.
In the immediate aftermath of Sam Baldoni's viral social media salvo, Blake Lively's extensive and highly paid public relations apparatus sprang into action, initiating a frantic damage control campaign. They attempted to aggressively reinforce her established public persona, flooding social media feeds with meticulously curated Instagram posts depicting idyllic family moments, showcasing her impeccable designer wardrobe, and highlighting carefully selected glimpses into her burgeoning entrepreneurial ventures. The strategy was clear: to overwhelm the burgeoning negativity with a barrage of carefully constructed positivity, to drown out the rising tide of skepticism with a manufactured wave of aspirational lifestyle content. However, the intended effect spectacularly backfired. The online audience, now acutely attuned to the unfolding scandal and increasingly skeptical of Lively's carefully managed image, was no longer receptive to these glossy distractions. The comment sections beneath her meticulously crafted posts, once filled with fawning praise and adulatory emojis, were now relentlessly inundated with references to Sam Baldoni's viral video, pointed accusations of hypocrisy, and increasingly insistent demands for genuine answers and transparent accountability regarding the swirling allegations. Then, as if to amplify the already deafening chorus of public doubt, came the metaphorical nuke, a devastating blow delivered not by a rival celebrity or a vengeful ex-employee, but by the Hollywood Reporter, a venerable and deeply entrenched publication considered a cornerstone of the entertainment industry's established power structure. The magazine's February 21st cover was unveiled, and it was nothing short of a public execution of Lively's carefully cultivated image. A cartoon caricature of Blake Lively, depicted in unflattering exaggeration, was emblazoned across the cover, poised to launch a smartphone via slingshot directly at Justin Baldoni. The visual was biting, satirical, and undeniably damaging. Lively's spokesperson, scrambling to mitigate the PR catastrophe, issued a formal statement vehemently condemning the Hollywood Reporter, accusing the publication of engaging in shameful journalism and alleging a deliberate downplaying of serious allegations, while simultaneously attempting to reframe the entire controversy as a mere cultural misunderstanding. But for seasoned Hollywood insiders, and indeed for anyone with a discerning eye on the shifting power dynamics of the industry, the message conveyed by the Hollywood Reporter's audacious cover was deafeningly unambiguous. The tide had definitively turned. The Hollywood Reporter, a publication typically deferential to A-list celebrities and acutely sensitive to industry power structures, was no longer hesitant to openly mock Blake Lively. Powerful figures behind the scenes, the studio executives, the casting directors, the influential producers, they were either demonstrably weary of Lively's carefully crafted narrative, or, more significantly, they no longer harbored any fear of potential repercussions from publicly criticizing or even lampooning her. Suddenly, Blake Lively, once perceived as untouchable, Hollywood's reigning golden girl, found herself plunged into a full-blown public relations crisis of unprecedented magnitude, desperately fighting to regain control of a narrative that was rapidly slipping through her fingers.
And so despite all of the resentment, to me, at the end of the day, that's what it means to be man.
So she could wield all creative control of the movie and end up getting her final cut of the movie, not Justin Baldoni's. And in the end, that's exactly what happened. He didn't even get to see the final cut of the movie.
This is some family drama. You don't do this. You don't do this in front of the scenes. This is not right, okay?
In a desperate bid to reclaim the rapidly disintegrating narrative and regain some semblance of control over the spiraling scandal, Blake Lively's beleaguered team doubled down on their existing strategies while simultaneously scrambling to devise new tactics to stem the relentless tide of negative publicity. But the public, and even the once sympathetic segments of Hollywood itself, were demonstrably no longer buying what she was selling. Then, adding another layer of complexity and intensifying the already withering scrutiny, the digital sleuths of social media, that increasingly influential and formidable force in the modern information age, commenced their deep dive, meticulously excavating Lively's past pronouncements, scrutinizing archival interviews and dissecting behind-the-scenes anecdotes with forensic precision. They unearthed a growing collection of inconsistencies, contradictions, and questionable statements that began to erode the foundations of her carefully constructed victim narrative. One particular revelation, unearthed from the depths of online archives, detonated with the force of a social media bomb, sending shockwaves of disbelief and outrage rippling across the internet. Lively's previously undisclosed claim that Justin Baldoni had purportedly invaded her privacy during a vulnerable moment while she was breastfeeding. This was a profoundly serious accusation implying a deeply personal and deeply disturbing violation of personal boundaries, a transgression that, if substantiated, would paint Baldoni in the most reprehensible light. However, just as public opinion began to solidify against Baldoni based on this inflammatory claim, Justin's legal team strategically released a series of text message exchanges meticulously documented and time-stamped that directly and unequivocally contradicted Lively's account. These messages, presented as irrefutable evidence, revealed a very different reality. Text exchanges in which Blake Lively herself explicitly invited Justin Baldoni to enter her space to rehearse lines, casually mentioning in passing that she was breastfeeding at the time, but explicitly stating that it was no issue and not an impediment to their professional interaction. When these damning text messages were disseminated across social media platforms and amplified by online commentators, the shift in public sentiment was instantaneous and dramatic. Those who had initially rallied to her defense, swayed by the emotional weight of her accusations and the inherent sympathy often afforded to women in such situations, felt a profound sense of betrayal and manipulation. The initial assumption of possible misconduct on Baldoni's part evaporated, replaced by a chilling and unsettling question. Was Blake Lively, in her desperate attempt to control the narrative and solidify her victim status, actively fabricating elements of her story? Public trust, a fragile and ephemeral commodity in the best of times and particularly vulnerable in the hyper-reactive environment of social media, can vanish with breathtaking speed. Blake Lively, in her aggressive and ultimately self-defeating attempt to portray Justin Baldoni as a predatory figure, had inadvertently exposed a gaping and irreparable chasm in her own meticulously constructed narrative, a revelation that would have profound and lasting consequences for her reputation and career. Yet amidst
co-star
the
Justin
escalating
Baldoni calling it
cascade of damaging
outrageously
revelations
insulting
and
and playing
eroding
into
public
every
trust,
sexist
perhaps the
trope.
most
The illustration
bewildering
depicts
and ultimately
Lively
damaging
using
claim
a
to
slingshot
surface,
to
the
fire
one
a
that
cell phone
truly
at
ignited
Baldoni.
outrage amongst
I'm a
both
huge
seasoned
fan.
Hollywood insiders and casual observers
your
alike,
movies are so
was the
inspiring.
assertion
If
that Justin
everyone can
Baldoni
tag
had been
Justin
actively
Baldoni
and
to his video,
deliberately barred
it
from
would mean
attending
the
the
world
premiere
to
of
me.
his own
I have
movie,
been trying to
a
reach
film
out to
project
you
into
for
which
the
he had poured
longest.
years of
I
his
have
creative
everything to
energy.
give.
But
His
everyone's
financial
seeing through it.
investment,
They're
and
seeing
a
through the
significant portion
BS.
of his
And,
professional
at the
passion.
end of the day, they're the
If
ones
this
who are
claim,
seeking gag
initially
orders against
circulated
Baldoni
as a
from
rumor,
releasing
but quickly
information.
gaining traction and corroboration proved to be accurate, it exposed a truly chilling and deeply disturbing power dynamic at play. Blake Lively, wielding the combined influence of her own considerable star power and the formidable clout of her husband Ryan Reynolds, seemingly possessed enough leverage and industry sway to effectively banish the very producer and lead actor from the celebratory culmination of his own artistic endeavor. The story, initially met with incredulity, rapidly spread through the tightly knit circuits of industry circles, generating a palpable wave of shock, disbelief, and simmering anger. Studios executives, established actors, seasoned producers, all were uniformly aghast and deeply unsettled by this alleged display of unchecked power and blatant disregard for professional norms. It was perceived as a dangerously ominous precedent, a stark and unsettling example of how unchecked star influence could be ruthlessly weaponized to rewrite established professional boundaries, trample over rightful credits, and effectively erase the contributions of those deemed less powerful or less strategically aligned. Further reports emerging from sources within the film's production team hinted at a far more insidious level of manipulation and control. Accounts of entire sections of the creative team being subtly or not so subtly pressured, coerced, or outright instructed by Lively's camp to actively exclude Baldoni and his family from key events and decision-making processes surrounding the film's release. This alleged campaign of systematic exclusion and professional ostracization proved to be the final straw for Sam Baldoni. He recognized with the clarity and urgency of a parent fiercely protective of their child that allowing this premiere event to proceed under Lively's iron-fisted control could potentially inflict irreparable damage on Justin's burgeoning film career, potentially even derailing his professional trajectory entirely. And thus, Sam Baldoni's now infamous public condemnation of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, his Be a Justin social media post, took on an even deeper and more profound significance. It was not merely a father's emotional outburst, it was a strategic and calculated act of professional defense, a desperate attempt to shield his son from what he perceived as a ruthlessly orchestrated attack on his livelihood and his artistic legacy. And as Hollywood, a world where relationships often outweigh talent and where perception is frequently prioritized over reality, watched with bated breath, the industry began to quietly but decisively realign its allegiances. Casting directors, initially eager to cast the ever-marketable Blake Lively, began to express hesitant reservations. Producers who had previously turned a blind eye to whispered rumors of her behind-the-scenes meddling now possessed a readily available and publicly justifiable excuse to pass her over for coveted projects. Even SAG-AFTRA, the actors' union, which had initially appeared sympathetic to Lively's claims, particularly given her status as a female star alleging misconduct, seemed to subtly pull back, adopting a wait-and-see posture, hedging their bets and waiting to determine if Lively's increasingly shaky narrative would ultimately withstand the mounting weight of contradictory evidence. Blake Lively's meticulously constructed world, once seemingly impervious to external pressures, was demonstrably beginning to crumble around her piece by piece under the relentless weight of truth and the shifting sands of public opinion.
Anna, what does it mean to be working with Blake again?
Oh, we're talking about you all day.
Oh my God, I'm gonna take it.
Come on, get it in selfie mode. Be prepared.
It's part of being in the public eye. She's just used to being Hollywood's golden girl, and she had such thin skin that after having a couple negative things happen to her for a month, she had to blame him. She decided to blame him, and boy, did she open up a hornet's nest and learn, be careful what you wish for, because now you've got the fight you asked for, and you're not winning it.
While Blake Lively's once stellar career trajectory faced a precipitous downward spiral, teetering precariously on the brink of irreversible damage, a profoundly unexpected counter-narrative was simultaneously unfolding for Justin Baldoni. His remarkably restrained and strategically measured approach to navigating the escalating crisis, his quiet and dignified release of irrefutable evidence, stood in stark contrast to Lively's aggressive, often defensive, and ultimately self-sabotaging public relations tactics. And in a world saturated with noise and clamor, it was Baldoni's quiet truth, amplified by his father's unwavering and undeniably effective public defense, that resonated most powerfully with both the public at large and the influential power brokers of Hollywood. Justin Baldoni, once a recognizable and respected actor and filmmaker, but not quite yet a household name, found himself unexpectedly thrust into the international spotlight. Directors, prominent journalists, influential producers, all were reaching out intrigued by his compelling story, deeply impressed by his grace, composure, and resilience in the face of a high-profile smear campaign. A powerful narrative began to coalesce around Justin Baldoni, the calm and centered figure amidst a chaotic Hollywood storm, the undeserving victim of a calculated and malicious smear attempt, emerging from the crucible of controversy not broken or defeated, but demonstrably stronger, more respected, and more sought after than ever before. What initially appeared to be a potentially career-ending scandal for Justin Baldoni had, in a stunning and ironic twist of fate, transformed into an unexpected catalyst for his professional ascent. Blake Lively's dramatic downfall, meticulously documented and dissected in the relentless glare of the public eye, serves as a potent and cautionary tale about the inherent fragility of fame, the profound dangers of unchecked power and manipulative tactics, and the enduring, ultimately unyielding strength of truth and authenticity in an industry often defined by illusion and artifice. In Hollywood, as in the broader landscape of human experience, even the most meticulously constructed facades, the most carefully crafted illusions of perfection, will inevitably crumble and disintegrate when confronted with the unvarnished, undeniable power of truth. And as the protracted legal battles continue to unfold, promising further revelations and potentially even more damaging disclosures, one central truth remains unequivocally clear. The Baldoni family, through their unwavering commitment to familial loyalty, their strategic deployment of truth as their primary weapon, and their collective refusal to be intimidated or silenced, have emerged as the undeniably unexpected victors in this tumultuous and deeply revealing Hollywood saga. It is a stark and unforgettable lesson. In the final analysis, even the most dazzling star power, the most carefully cultivated public image, and the most formidable resources are ultimately insufficient to triumph when the weight of irrefutable facts, coupled with the unwavering force of a tight-knit support system, are resolutely aligned against you.